Carly Church escaped the world of sex trafficking when she was 25 after police found her in a hotel room 6 years ago. And since then, she has teamed up with detectives in Durham region in Ontario to hunt down other traffickers and to offer help to victims. Officers say she has become one of their most valuable assets. She's in our Your Morning studio today. Great to have you here, Carly. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
First of all, share with everybody, how were you lured into the world of sex trafficking?
So I was lured in probably what we see most common now. So I was actually quite vulnerable. My vulnerabilities were very apparent. So when my traffickers first met me, I was in a new city, I was homeless, I didn't really have any social supports, I had been disconnected from my family and friends, and I had a serious drug addiction. So they really played off of my vulnerabilities at the time. Right away, they noticed those vulnerabilities, and they came over and they sat down beside me and they started to ask me a million questions. And it didn't feel like I was being interviewed, and it didn't feel like I was being interrogated. It felt incredibly, incredibly special that for once somebody stopped and noticed I was struggling and asked me about it, that somebody took time out of their life to ask me about mine. So they asked me about my family, my friends, my struggles, and my hopes and dreams for the future, and I told them everything. They also saw all my basic needs that were not being met, and at that point in my life, there was quite a few. Like I said, I was homeless. I hadn't eaten in 3 days when they met me. I hadn't slept in 3 days. So those basic needs were very immediate, and right away, it moved to that grooming and gaming stage where they met every single one of my basic needs.
At what point did it become... At what point did you enter being trafficked from that relationship of like support and providing what you needed to abuse?
So it actually only took 3 days from the day that they met me to the day that they had me take my first client in the sex trade. And it was because my vulnerabilities were so apparent and because my basic needs were not being met that I moved through those stages of exploitation very quickly. They were able to move me from that luring stage to the grooming stage to the coercion manipulation stage to the full-on exploitation stage very quickly.
Tell me the time when police found you 6 years ago in a hotel room, and that was sort of the beginning of the end of that phase of your life.
It was. So I was very lucky. I was fortunate. I had a detective come to my hotel room, and he did everything right. You know, it sounds crazy, but he actually did everything that my traffickers did in that luring stage. He came into that hotel room, and he did not judge me for what I was doing. He did not tell me what I was doing was wrong, and he did not try to save and rescue me. He sat there, and he talked to me like I was a human being. He talked to me like he would his sister or his daughter. He asked me about my life. He asked me about my family. He asked me what happened in my life. He asked me about my struggles. He asked me about my hopes and dreams for the future. He sat there and he talked to me for almost a full hour. So it really built some trust. Obviously, I didn't tell him at that point what was going on, but he was able to see a lot of red flags, and he did a lot of work behind the scenes that evening, and he ended up coming back to my hotel room. Both my traffickers were actually arrested that evening, and he came back to my hotel room, and again, he did everything right. He did everything that my traffickers did in that grooming and gaming stage. The same night he met me, he made sure I got to the hospital, so it made me feel as if he cared about my well-being, my safety. And then he helped me, introduce me to victim services, actually. And they helped me meet all my basic needs, from a safe place to stay, to a cell phone, to food, to getting into a treatment center, to introducing me to loving, caring, supportive people.
In your work now with the Durham Police, do you do a similar role?
So I do the exact same thing, which is incredible. I've done pretty much like a 180. So Victim Services of Durham Region actually helped me exit the sex trade, and now I work with Victim Services of Durham Region. So I do the exact same thing. I go into hotels with Durham Regional Police, and I offer the young people a different option.
I think it's really important to give this message to parents, Carly, because sex trafficking in Canada is not something that targets just one demographic. It hits every city in this country. What you say when you give talks to grade 8 and grade 9 students, there's always one that comes up and says either I know of someone or this has happened to me.
Yeah.
What do you want to say to parents or to young people?
I think it's important to know that there are resources and that there are supports and there are services and there's people out there who care. And I think it's, if I can give any information to parents, it's to educate yourself. Know that human trafficking does happen. Reach out to individuals who can provide that knowledge and provide that education. You know, this is something that is happening in our cities, it's happening in our communities, and it's happening in your neighborhood. So it's incredibly important to talk to your children. You know, be aware of what's going on in their lives and be interested in their lives.
Carly, I want to thank you so much for coming on to share not only your story, but a little bit of hope for people that are out there, too. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.